Hello! Alright, real quick, I got a couple of ones to upload. So this is Grixis Shadow, and game 1 goes about how it normally goes. So I keep because I have disruption, and that's decent. I mean, I could see an argument for not keeping this, but whatever. And opponent is on Grixis Shadow. They do have the discard, Shadow, and some sort of manipulation, and ways to turn on Shadow here. So I'm on the play. And Inquisition. Now here, I figured that what are the chances I'm going to draw another Shadow, right? Or a threat. So I figure my next Inquisition, I'll grab that Shadow. With this one, I just grab the Inquisition so that they can't disrupt me. And I figured if I draw a land, then I can just Inquisition, grab that Shadow, and then play whatever. Unfortunately, that's not how it played out. Yeah, and then off of that, Serum Visions, they do draw a second Shadow, which destroys that whole plan, and I don't draw a land. So it got worse for me in two different ways. This is where I see the second Shadow. I'm like, well, shit. And then they top deck an Inquisition. So there goes my Stirring, so I can't even dig for another land. Yep. Now, fortunately, I do draw another land. And I just play it out real quick. There could be an argument made here to blind mill with the Pixis, but I was afraid that if I was basically afraid that I might get a bridge under there. And then finally I was like, oh, screw it, I'll just do it. Now here, I was tempted to do the tutor here for either a lantern or a bridge, because I got a little bit of time here. I know these got a Terminate and Island left in his hand, or her hand. So I could have tutored here for either a bridge or a lantern, but what I was worried about was if they do draw a discard, then they'll just discard that, and now the chances of me naturally drawing it are much less. Whereas if I just wait a turn, I could probably just go for a lantern. So I decided to wait. And they draw Thoughtseize. So I'm like, well, crap. So if I had used it, then... So at this point I figure, okay, now it's basically luck of the draw. And I'll just blind mill and go for it. It's either I draw it or I don't. Yep. And then during my draw phase, as soon as he said draw step, I was like, yeah, here it comes. And so I go ahead and concede. Doot. So game 2. I'm side in. Okay, I side out my needles. I side out my surgicals. I side out one bell. So that's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Oh, in 2 jars. I sided in 2 jars. So I sided in my Magus of the Moat, Magus of the Moon, 3 ley lines, and 2 jars. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Side out 4, 5, and then 2 more cards. What did I side out? Oh, yeah, I sided out all of my brutalities because they suck against this. So, yeah. And my sideboard plan is untapped out, too. So I keep this hand because I figure that I have Leyline, and that's good. And I have a way to tutor for bridge if I really need to. So, here we go. And if I do get an Academy of Ruins, then I can just, and I get Opal turned on, then I can just blind mill and go for it and hope that they don't have a surgical. Go ahead and I hold up my quarter. There's a bridge. Unfortunately, they do have the red mana and they have command. So if I had been able to get one, if I had drawn an artifact or something instead of this, then I would have been able to keep this open and I could have quartered them immediately and cut them off red, and it would have bought me some time. But that did not happen. So they go ahead and they command now and then deal 2 to themselves, because that's their only other legal target, and hit me for 5. So again, I'm in trouble now. Here I think I make a mistake. I think I should have played the Glimmer Void. I think that's the correct play, because The play here is I play Glimmer Void, and then hopefully in the next 2 turns I either draw an artifact that he doesn't care to counter, or another land that taps for a mana of any color. And then I play a Magus, because I figure at this point they've got counters to counter my bridge. So Magus of the Moat is what I'm thinking is my best hope here. So I think I should have played the Glimmer Void there. So yep, another 5. They do some stuff here, doesn't matter. They put everything on the bottom, so I'm not doing Bell. Yep, I'm getting a good threat. So this, I draw the Magus. Now I don't have the other. So I'm thinking here, I could sack the Fair now and go for an artifact to turn on metalcraft, but I don't want to tempt my opponent with a counter. I figure that I'll just do it at the end of their turn and fake like I'm doing some crazy stuff. Basically, fake them out. Because what I want to do now is sack this, go get any artifact, I don't care what, to turn on this metalcraft, so I can play Magus, and then I am golden. But I know that they've got counter, so I have to get an artifact they really don't care about, so I get a Bauble. So play the Bauble, they don't counter it, that turns on metalcraft, and I play Magus. And I keep my quarter open if I really have to. I am 1 quarter away from just shutting them completely off a red. Yeah. Now opponent goes to do this to try to get a command back to hand. I do not want that. So in response I mill, because I figure at this point they probably don't have a whole lot of answers to Magus of the Moat in their deck. They do, it turns out. So I mill in response, because there's only like maybe a couple of cards in their library, and they basically have to double command Magus to get under the lock. So I mill, and if I hadn't milled, then it would have been Tarn, Command, and Tasigur. And I would have given back Tasigur, and then they can still mold their graveyard to force me to give back Command. So I mill, and fortunately it digs deep enough that it puts a Thoughtseize in there, which I can go ahead and give my opponent, and they get a poopy card. Now what's interesting about this, they can't even Snapcaster Command to kill this because they only run 7 mana producing lands in the deck. And Snapcaster Command would cost 5, and then they don't have the other 3 for another command. There could have been an argument made about holding this lantern, just holding it in my hand, because they can't make me discard it. And then if I hold lantern, wait until I get a discard spell, take a look at their hand to try to force through lantern. But I was like, you know what, screw it. I don't care. I'm just trying to get it going, you know? I didn't play the Leyline because I wanted to be able to use this if I really had to. But in hindsight, I probably should have go ahead and played this Leyline. So I do get a discard spell. And so I go ahead and grab the Snapcaster because Snapcaster can attack on under bridge if they can somehow get rid of this. Yep. And now I go ahead and play the Leyline so I don't get screwed with that. And opponent's just drawing a bunch of dead stuff. The bubbles are actually really good here because they're helping me dig very quickly. So my opponent's drawing like single crap cards a turn for the most part, and I'm drawing lots of really good stuff. Strings, they don't do anything about it. I grab a lantern. Again, I was thinking about just holding the lantern, but I'm like, whatever. I'll force him to use the counters. I use the bubble to look at my top. There's an Abrupt Decay on top, which doesn't matter. So I go ahead and mill that, and mill their top, which is an Inquisition that doesn't matter. Draw 2 cards. And I just start milling them. So they decided not to counter my lantern. I'm not sure why. They did have the counter. I think they were trying to hold that up for bridge, which I understand. And then I'll go ahead and play my ruins, and that's pretty much game. And another shredder. Play the shredder, and they're just trying to stop bridge for the most part. It looks like. So there's a Tombstalker on top. For some reason, Cockatrice glitched, and there's no way it doesn't show it. But it's a big flying delve creature. So flying is key here, because that means that it'll kill me with the Magus of the Moat in play. And also the delve will allow them to sculpt their graveyard. Don't want that. So what I do is I go ahead and mill it. They go to shuffle in response, because that is probably their only answer. They probably sided out all of their creature removal and bolts and stuff. Go ahead and mill that instant speed draw. Stubborn Denial doesn't matter anymore because I have the lock, and whatever they counter I can get back with ruins. So grab that. And a 4 rock lock is pretty hard now. And opponent concedes. So game 3. Game 3, still, I sided out the decays if I remember correctly. And I still leyline. This time I have, it's pretty good, a leyline, lantern, disruption, and I really like the ruins here, especially with the opal. So I keep it. Opponent molds to 5, so good for me. Let them scry and put out the ley line. I'm guessing, I don't remember if they sided out their discard, but whatever. So, yep, just play it out. Yeah, they don't have a whole lot going on here. So, they have a chance. There's a good, like, argument to make for countering this, but you know, because now I can Inquisition and get rid of this Ceremonious Rejection, and now I'm golden. I'm going to take some damage from the Tassiger. I don't really care because I have a Stirrings in hand and another Stirrings, and I will have mana to, you know, play a bridge if I can get it off of Stirrings. And if I can get that bridge out, then that Tassiger don't matter. Now, there could have been an argument made here of milling in response to that fetch to get Kolaghan's Command in the graveyard, but whatever. And there could be an argument made for milling this bolt so that I can play a Magus if I really want to, but I figured, you know, I should be okay there. They don't have red mana anyways. I know what the rest of their hand already looks like. And I could have played Stirrings here, but there's a Stirrings on top. If I keep this Stirrings, that means I'm looking 15 cards deep in my library, and I would much rather be able to do that than, you know, look 10 cards deep. And I'm on a clock, yeah, but it's just, I have a 5-turn clock. I can wait a turn. Yeah. And there's another Stirrings on top. So I'm like, don't want to wait too long, so I go ahead and play it out. Stirrings, and I don't get a whole lot. No bridge, so I get another Shredder. Stirrings again, still no bridge, so I get a Pixis. Stirrings again, still no bridge. I get a Fair, so 15 cards I wouldn't have gotten a bridge, so it was good that I waited for the Stirrings. And then I just play out my mill rocks, and I'm good. So this will let me dig another 6 cards deep if I have to. And there's a Magus of the Moat. They don't have the red mana, but I don't have the second white mana. So I decide to wait on that. And there's a Magus of the Moon. If I play the Magus of the Moon, it gives them the red mana, and then they just kill it. So no point in that. Or they can bolt themselves so they can play these guys. Like, nah. So I just mill myself again, and finally I get a bridge. So 15 cards, 16, 17, 18 cards deep I get to get a bridge. and play it. And that's it. That's game. Like, if you look at, they can't activate Tassiger. They can't play their shadows. They'll just die, and they can't play their bolt. And this Tassiger doesn't matter it at all. So that's game right there. With the 6 rock lock. So that's it. Grixis Shadow.